Episode 5 of Invincible, Season 4.
Our devotion, our vengeance!
On Talisria, Thaddeus receives the bad news. The captain of the Coalition ship has lost the signal of Nolan, Mark, and Oliver. Thaddeus is furious. They were the central pillar of the entire attack plan. The captain apologizes, explaining that their ship was attacked and destroyed. Thaddeus, for his part, is also devastated. He has completely lost it. He simply tells the captain to leave, and once he does, the leader of the Coalition contacts the technical command. He sends the order to schedule a meeting. There are important matters to discuss. Meanwhile, aboard the Viltrumite battlecruiser, the two survivors of the fight assume that Conquest has killed Mark, Nolan, and Oliver, and that in the process, Conquest himself has also died. Now, all that remains for the Viltrumites is to return to the main fleet. What they do not know is that attached to the hull of the ship is the Garter Mycen armor, and inside it are Tech Jacket and Alan. This is something Tech Jacket once saw in a movie. Back on the planet where the fight between Mark and Conquest took place, Nolan has chosen a burial site for the old Viltrumite. Oliver doesn't understand why he is doing this. According to him, Conquest should be left to rot under the sun. However, Nolan has a certain level of respect for his enemy. He was one of the greatest Viltrumite warriors who ever lived. Everything he did for the Empire. He deserves respect. Nolan believes the man who died today was a far better Viltrumite than he ever was. Once the grave is set, father and sons return to Mark. Invincible has been bandaged up and for the moment is not in danger of dying. What Nolan plans to do is simply wait for Mark to recover on his own. The only thing he doesn't know is how long that will take. They could be on this planet for months. Oliver does not like this at all. However, Nolan doesn't think it is such a bad thing. Now he will finally have time to get to know his son properly. Elsewhere in the galaxy, a ship passes through the area where the Viltrumite prison once stood and discovers a treasure, a massive frozen creature, Varlbest. He still has a pulse and is calling out for more fights. Back on Talisria, Thaddeus is staring at his chess piece, pondering whether or not he should use it, but he is soon called by the communications team, who inform him that all the weapons that Nolan and Alan had retrieved are finally ready. The best way to proceed would be to attack the civilizations held captive by the Viltrumites. Many Coalition ships have already moved toward these planets. All they need is for Thaddeus to give the order to begin. And the old leader does exactly that. He orders a full frontal assault against the Viltrumites. And with that, one of the bloodiest wars the galaxy has ever seen officially begins. Back on the planet where Mark is resting, Nolan and Oliver have found some creatures to hunt for food. Upon seeing these hideous creatures, Oliver swears he will never eat them. They disgust him completely. However, 2 weeks have already passed and neither of them has eaten. Nolan knows the boy will give in soon, and that is exactly what happens. Oliver devours the guts of this creature as if there were no tomorrow, and once they run out, he asks for more. Back with Tech Jacket, something miraculous has happened. The boy is growing a beard. He didn't even know he was capable of growing one. Normally, his suit cleans and shaves him automatically. At that very moment, while the two of them are talking, the ship begins to shake. Tech Jacket asks what that was. Alan confesses that he has a tracking device. This device can be used so that others can locate him in space. Most likely, the cavalry has arrived, and he is not wrong, because approaching the ship is the space racer, along with a troop of soldiers. It is time for this battle to begin as well. Back with the Graysons, Oliver is feeding Mark using the fluids from these creatures. Nolan does not want Mark consuming meat because it could cause him to deteriorate. They have already been here for a month. Mark's recovery is on track, but will most likely take a few more months. That is why Nolan has begun constructing a shelter. Oliver takes this opportunity to ask a very unusual question. He asks his father if he truly loves Debbie, and after being locked inside a Viltrumite prison for so long, Nolan has come to discover that yes, he does love her. Viltrumites feel affection, but they do not truly care deeply for one another. Their lives are so long that they begin to grow distant. Forming a genuine bond with another Viltrumite is very difficult. Their lives are very lonely. But when Nolan began living on Earth, his life changed completely. He watched humans grow fond of one another, and that was something special that he truly admired. In the beginning, Nolan was just an observer, but soon he grew genuinely attached to Debbie. Now he wonders if he chose her at random, because back then, he knew it was the only way. He couldn't truly care for such a fragile creature, and yet he felt a real connection with Debbie. They had Mark. They raised him as a human. Nolan spent his early years waiting for his Viltrumite abilities to develop, knowing that his Viltrumite DNA, mixed with the human side, it would eventually emerge. He never saw this as a task. task, he genuinely enjoyed it. Over time, he embraced his role as a human husband, and then as a father, and when Mark developed his powers, Omni-Man began to feel the weight and responsibility pressing down on him. To escape that, he had to go back to being a Viltrumite. He spent a long time wondering if he could ignore his duty, if he could keep living inside the lie he had come to enjoy so much. In the end, he chose his mission over the love he felt, and that decision led to catastrophe. It ended with Mark beaten on the ground. Nolan realized he had made a terrible mistake, but by then, he had gone too far. It was too late to turn back. Back on Talisria, Thaddeus and Alan finally report to Thaddeus. He is going to need them both greatly. Alan, now without wings, acknowledges that the war has begun, and they are now working to recapture the planet Hula, which sits within Viltrumite territory. Recapturing it will be an essential part of the war effort, so both of them must depart soon. Tech Jacket is so nervous about all of this that instead of saying something meaningful, he tells Thaddeus that he has been growing his beard. Neither Alan nor Thaddeus appreciates the comment. Back with Nolan and Oliver, Oliver tells his father that he has had a really good time on Earth. Although at first, people didn't understand the affection Nolan had felt towards Oliver's mother, none of that matters now. His mother must be dead. Oliver still remembers her too. She was a very good person, and he feels deep regret about the accelerated life cycle Oliver was forced into. Oliver never forgets that fact. He thinks all the time about his own lifespan is going to be. Nolan takes this moment to reassure him. He doesn't need to worry. His Viltrumite DNA will make him live for centuries, and gradually his aging will slow down considerably. Deep inside, Oliver still carries a great deal of hatred. He hates the Viltrumites above all else, especially because they look down on him as someone inferior. He wants to kick all of their backsides, and so does Nolan, but for that, they need to wait for Mark to be back in full shape. While father and son are flying together, Oliver spies in the distance a nest of these creatures. He is going to feast tonight. Omni-Man is starting to notice that Oliver eats even when he is not hungry. Oliver responds that it's because he absolutely loves these things. The shaking he has gone through has actually made him start to get a little chubby. Meanwhile, in the war, Alan is directing his squadron. Back with Nolan and Oliver, Oliver jokes that Mark and Eve always make a lot of noise when they are together. He doesn't have super hearing, but he can hear them from a very great distance. Back in the war, the poison that they had recovered to use against the Viltrumites has lost its effectiveness. Alan can see that it is not working, and they must abort the attack. Back with Mark, Nolan, and Oliver, Invincible's spine has finally healed. Now that his body no longer has to regenerate bone, the rest of the recovery will take much less time. It is very likely that in one more month he will be ready. In the meantime, the Coalition takes the opportunity to gather more weapons described in Nolan's books. That will now be Tech Jacket and Alan's responsibility. At the same time, Oliver and Nolan train together. The boy does not hold back and attacks his father as if he were a true enemy. Back to the Coalition, some time has passed. Varlbest has agreed to join the ranks and is now leading a squadron to the planet Hula. The Coalition has lost control over the planet Hula, but a new battle has begun on Kria Prima. For now, Tech Jacket and Alan must rest. At the same time, Nolan continues training his son, pushing him to develop more muscle mass. Back with the Coalition, the war presses on, and for every 2 steps forward, there are 3 back. The Coalition army can fight against the Viltrumite army, but they are lacking heavy-hitting soldiers. Without Nolan and Invincible, the Coalition is at a serious disadvantage. Having Varlbest, Space Racer, Tech Jacket, and Alan is not enough. And finally, after a very long time, Invincible speaks his first words, and they are, "I will kill you." Nolan witnesses this and determines that it won't be much longer before Mark finishes recovering, and hopefully that will be soon, because one of the aliens in charge of communications has been continuously betraying the Coalition. He has been communicating directly with Thragg and feeding him every single one of their war plans. However, Thragg is impatient. He is going to direct a direct attack on Talisria. He plans to destroy the head of the Coalition and stop this war from continuing, but to do that, he needs the Infiltrator to shut down the planet's defenses. Sometime later on Talisria, Thaddeus is communicating with the other members of the Coalition of Planets and asks them to place their faith in the coalition they have built. They are strong enough to win this war. They simply need to endure the trials they are currently facing. Many have been questioning Thaddeus's decisions, but it is now that the leader of the coalition finally reveals the work he had been doing alongside Nolan. He tells them that a Viltrumite betrayed the Empire, and they have been collecting weapons capable of harming the invaders. The armies of every coalition member have been equipped with weapons that can hurt the Viltrumites. However, the central pillar of this attack plan, Nolan, Mark, and Oliver, have gone missing, and despite this, Thaddeus asks them to continue fighting together. If they keep going this way, they will prevail. It is at that very moment that Thaddeus's speech is interrupted. The planet Talisria shakes. The Viltrumite armada has arrived to attack the coalition directly. At that same moment, on the planet where Oliver, Nolan, and Mark are living, Nolan is having a conversation with Oliver. Oliver is telling him that on planet Earth, he doesn't find many people attractive, only certain unique individuals. Among them, one time someone took him to eat lobster, and even though he ate it whole, he thought it was a beautiful creature. Nolan tells him he has encountered creatures like that on Talisria, and once all of this is over, he promises to introduce his son to some lovely young ladies. When Nolan and Oliver return to camp, they see something extraordinary. Mark is standing up. He has recovered almost completely. He has been looking for conquest and asked his father if he killed him. Nolan responds that it was not he himself who did it. From there, we travel to another very interesting planet where we find Alan and Tech Jacket. Let's just say that Tech Jacket is having quite a good time with the locals, despite having a girlfriend. Alan tells him they need to leave because they have received an emergency call from Talisria. Back with Invincible, he still cannot comprehend how he managed to kill his enemy. He felt so terrified. He thought Conquest was stronger than him. Alan tells him that perhaps it was the adrenaline. That, combined with his will to live, brought out his true strength. Meanwhile, Conquest had been fighting more like a spectator in his own fight. Invincible does not like hearing this. He had promised himself he would never kill again, and that promise did not last very long. However, his father reminds him, this is war. The time has come for them to join the fight. Meanwhile, on Talisria, the Viltrumites are destroying everything. Aboard the flagship, Thragg is present. For thousands of years, the Viltrumites had reigned without any opposition whatsoever, until Thaddeus appeared. Thragg believes Thaddeus is the progenitor of the Viltrumite downfall. That is why they now find themselves in this miserable state. Their grip on the galaxy is beginning to slip away, which is precisely why he decided to strike Talisria directly. Once they kill Thaddeus, the coalition will be in ruins. And finally, Thragg will have achieved vengeance for his lord. All this time, Thragg has been speaking to a broken skull at his side. Thaddeus has survived the initial attack, but now has no more doubts. He knows who the traitor is. He grabs one of the aliens in charge of communications by the throat and demands to know how he could have done this. However, the small alien tells him it was not him, it was his companion. Thaddeus flies at full speed to catch him, but suddenly, the Viltrumite known as Craig comes crashing down from the sky. Both Viltrumites begin fighting each other. However, Thaddeus has one priority, catching this alien traitor. Because of this, he is fighting carelessly, and Craig grabs him by the ankle and slams him into the ground. But suddenly, a laser beam strikes Craig's head. Tech Jacket and Alan have also arrived to join the battle. Alan launches himself on top of Craig, taking him out of the fight. Meanwhile, Tech Jacket is attacking from a distance. However, at that moment, Anissa appears and attacks Alan from behind. She begins to crush him. Tech Jacket's armor starts to crack under the pressure. Then suddenly, Thaddeus helps the boy by knocking out Anissa. At the same time, Craig continues fighting him. Thaddeus thinks this one is not out of his league. Back with Tech Jacket and Alan, the boy thinks they should help Alan before Anissa wakes up, but Alan has other plans. They need to regroup. Alan can take care of himself. Thaddeus wants to gather all the troops he has left. He had not anticipated a direct attack on Talisria. The majority of their squadrons are light years away. Thaddeus thinks this is over. Nevertheless, one final glimmer of hope arrives. The Graysons have reached the battlefield. Anissa wakes up and grabs Tech Jacket by the neck, but Nolan immediately comes crashing down on top of her. At the same time, Oliver and Mark engage the Viltrumite soldiers. Invincible asks his brother to be gentle. These creatures have been enslaved by the Viltrumites. They are not doing this of their own will free. Thaddeus approaches the boys and asks them to please clear the area. However, Mark wants to do something first, and for that, he's going to need his brother's help. Both of them start flying very high. Invincible gives the instruction to Oliver to close his fists and hold them out in front of him. Both brothers punch straight through the Viltrumite's main battlecruiser. Thragg's ship begins to shake violently. Thaddeus cannot believe what Invincible and his brother have done. They need to get out of there immediately. But Mark is not finished. With the help of Alan, Tech Jacket and Oliver, they begin pushing the ship out towards space until finally it reaches the orbit of Talisria, and in the infinite void of space, Thragg clutches the skull of his ruler and swears to destroy every single one of these people, but now is not the moment. He cannot risk it. The Viltrumite soldiers begin to realize that there are no Viltrumites left on the planet. They have been abandoned. The few who remain behind take advantage of the confusion and retreat alongside Nolan and Alan. All Viltrumite forces accompany Thragg in his withdrawal. Back on Talisria, the remaining soldiers surrender. There is no way they can win without their conquerors. On top of this, the thin alien picks up a weapon and begins pointing it at the traitor. He cannot believe he betrayed them. They had been working for the Coalition for so long. Because of that, he shoots him in the head, but the shot is not lethal. Thaddeus stops the alien. That is enough. He confronts the traitor and tells him to look at what he has caused. The entire planet has been destroyed, and for these crimes, he will pay. But first, Thaddeus wants to know where the Viltrumites have gone. The traitor says it doesn't matter anymore. It is too late. There is no hope left for the Coalition. This war is lost. The Viltrumites had agreed that if they lost this battle, they would gather all of their forces on the Viltrumite home planet for a counterattack. At this very moment, every single Viltrumite in the galaxy is heading towards Viltrum, and when they finally strike back, this will be the end of the Coalition.
And that is everything for today's episode, friends. The Viltrum War is heating up, but will the Coalition survive a full-scale assault on Viltrum itself? We are about to find out. If you want episode 6 to drop early, go down to the comments right now and drop a comment. The more comments we get, the sooner the next video goes up. Let's make it happen. Also, make sure you are subscribed and have the bell turned on so you do not miss a single chapter of this incredible war.